This is Desm 101. Thanks for tuning in. Today, let's review the Rollcage series on the PS1. Now, I am a big fan of the Wipeout series of games from Psygnosis, which is known for being a leader in the futuristic hover car style racing genre. Since 1995, the series has been setting a high standard for how futuristic racers should look and play in 3D. It has evolved competently over the years, yielding more fantastic and impressive results, usually on the Sony PlayStation platform, although not exclusively. Psygnosis published another futuristic racing game on the PlayStation, something with more emphasis on physics and unique cars with oversized wheels, but still with a pumping electronic soundtrack. The Rollcage series began in 1999 as a high-speed chaotic battle racing game that somewhat flew under the radar due to the late release and also probably having trouble differentiating itself from its bigger cousins, Wipeout and Wipeout XL. Rollcage was developed by Attention to Detail, ATD for short, whom you might recognize from Indiana Jones and the Fate of Atlantis, the action game, not to be confused with the regular Fate of Atlantis by LucasArts. They also made the Cybermorph games from the Atari Jaguar, and their other PS1 titles include Blast Chamber and Incredible Hulk: The Pantheon Saga. The story for Rollcage goes that the game was originally conceived as a battle racing game called Wrecked on Speed. It focused on the destruction of elements on the track as well as on other racers. They later pitched the idea to publishers including Psygnosis under the title GFX, short for G-Force Extreme, and Psygnosis ended up deciding to publish it under the name Rollcage. The car designs were lovingly borrowed from a popular RC car design at the time called Ricochet by Tyco. I remember it well. The flippable design was actually used to resolve a physics problem in the game that involved cars flipping when transitioning out from driving inside a vertical wall into a flat area of the track. The game was released in 1999 and saw pretty good reviews overall. The game was also released on Windows at the same time. Now, I remember renting the game while house sitting for my mom in Arizona for a couple weeks. I had brought my PS1 with me, and this was a blast to play. It had that sleek look and very fun with wild physics engine for me to mess around with. I spent a lot of time playing this game. Now, the game consists of 3 modes: League, Time Attack, and Multiplayer. In League, you need to race against opponents in a series of tracks in 3 different tournaments, each of which must be unlocked by placing first in the overall points of the tournament. You can also unlock additional difficulties, plus the chance to challenge a new character if you can finish the game in hard mode, and get their vehicle upon completion of expert mode. The Windows version also includes arcade mode, where you can play additional tracks from the multiplayer mode and deathmatch in addition to the normal league tracks. You select from a roster of racers who have their own car with specific stats. The graphics look great, and you get a real sense of speed as you hit the speed pads on the track and pick up power-up items. You can equip 2 items at a time, each from grabbing the floating power-ups on the track, and they are fired with the L and R buttons, depending on which side you want to use. Items include drill missile, rockets, shields, speed boosters, and a weird screen distorting item. Be careful for the number 1 icon weapon. It is like a blue turtle shell from Mario Kart and will even attack yourself if you use it when you're in first place. You can block these shots with a rocket or a shield. There are also obstacles on the tracks that can block your way and cause you to get stuck. Thankfully, you can destroy many of them by shooting rockets or plowing through them with a speed boost. You can also cause signs hanging over the track to fall on other racers by firing a well-timed rocket as you pass underneath. The physics really take center stage as you play. watching the races unfold into madness trying to keep track of where you are and where you need to drive to win. Sometimes your car gets helplessly thrown around by explosions or flying off walls, which can be disorienting. Luckily in easy mode you can press the circle button to spin your car around and point you in the right direction. In the harder difficulties you will need to go ahead and reverse with the triangle button, like a normal racing game. The cars are indestructible, so it's really fun to see all the punishment that they can take and not get destroyed. The tracks do a good job keeping you involved in the racing and planning out how to get past the others. Sometimes you can see additional speed pads on the ceilings or the walls to incentivize you to take the risk of getting thrown off the track just to get those speed pads. There is a good art style and impressive lighting effects build the futuristic atmosphere around you. The art style is not quite as heavily designed as Wipeout, but we get an excellent cross between the 90s Hot Wheels / Tyco RC car looks and tracks with themes that really set them apart from each other. The music is full of some great breakbeats, and it serves as a nice example of the sounds that were popular in electronic genres in the 90s before the big EDM explosion. It fits well with the game, and it adds to the vibe when you play it. Of course, there are some downsides. The physics can be frustrating at times, especially when you are facing a wall that flips you over repeatedly. The key is to stop pressing the accelerator until you can get properly oriented. The controls are very touchy, so you will find it best to tap the D-pad instead of pressing it for any length of time to avoid spinning out. Many times you will want to throw the controller when you unexpectedly bounce off a bump in the road and completely lose the race due to getting stuck or flipping out of control in what feels like a fluke. The game is a bit short on content, but makes up for it with the split-screen multiplayer mode. The game saw somewhat of a re-release in 2014 in the game Rollcage Redo, which contains some improvements to the game and physics engine. Runs great on modern computers. The following year saw the sequel release, Rollcage Stage 2, which was published by Midway in the US and Psygnosis in the European Union, and also saw a name change to Death Track Racing outside of the US and Europe. While the game looks very similar to the first, it plays much better with improvements to the controls and physics, which make the game more intense. Plus, it features a bunch of new weapons like the machine gun, and many others which will need to be unlocked. Speaking of locked content, there is several more modes which can be made available, as well as new vehicles and upgraded versions of previous cars. The game plays the same, but you will find the focus has shifted more to the racing aspect. The other racers have improved AI, and the short tracks will have you scrambling for ways to try and pass your opponents. You can still destroy obstacles and signs on the course, but it feels more open now. Now at the end of each tournament is a knockout round. You will need to place first in all the tournament races to even reach the knockout round, and if you don't survive the final place of that round, it's game over. It's much more challenging this time, and for the right reasons, instead of getting stuck with the controls. The game still features many chances to toss your car around, but it feels like you have more mass, and the response of the cars on the track is just a touch more realistic. The music is another solid soundtrack of electronic beats, this time with a faster drum and bass flavored mix of tunes, which gives it a proper underground vibe, and it fits in with some cool music trends that were around at that time. I didn't actually catch Rollcage Stage 2 when it was originally released. I recall that the PS2 came out right about the same time, and back then I was not very into collecting games, and getting more into retro emulation instead of the current stuff. Plus, I was in college and not very focused on amassing a game collection. It was not my priority back then. Now, the game received pretty positive reviews and still holds up well today. This one also got an update called Rollcage Extreme, with improvements to the game, an unofficial release from the kind heart of the developer. He even makes a disclaimer on his website about the game, due to the licensing. At the time of this writing, a spiritual sequel to Rollcage was announced called Grip, which is in early access on Steam. You can play it now. And the full release slated for summer 2018. It looks pretty good. I haven't had a chance to check it out just due to specs on my computer running it. So I recommend checking out the updated revisions if you've never played the series before. Though support for Robert Baker, who put up the updated versions out. The second game stands out as the better of the two, but these are a blast to play every now and then, especially with a friend. Check them out. Alright guys, and that's going to wrap it up for today. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope you have a good one.